Hello, everybody. It's on, and it's time for another episode of Booking SWF. All right, our show last night was pretty good. 78 is kind of our baseline, so I am okay with that. We got some really good angles, some pretty decent matches, but a whole lot of mediocrity that brought the rating down. The goal is to not let that continue to happen. Luckily, we don't have any warnings, it seems, or news that says that Supreme TV was canceled by the broadcaster. From what I understand, prestigious and long-running shows have a lot more leeway in terms of getting canceled, so I am feeling okay. I do think that I can build up to much better shows going forward to avoid that dreaded cancellation. Before I check the mail, I am going to step into the office, and when I addressed the locker room before last night's show, I let everyone air their grievances, and that seems to have worked. I don't have as many morale issues. I have the typical ones where Jack Bruce was upset with me, ZWB was upset with me, but everything else is kind of cleared up. So I feel pretty good about that, and seems like that was a good decision. Let's check out the mail. And obviously the broadcaster isn't happy. Drug testing fees, Supreme TV viewing figures. All right, normal stuff. Okay, so the next thing I need to do in anticipation of my show next week is a little pre-booking. So for Supreme TV, I did add my tag team championship match, and that's cool. I do have enough star power to have some increased attendance, but I have a bunch of matches that I know I want to add, and there's no storyline reason to not pre-book all of them, so I'm gonna do that. Okay, I added all of the matches that I wanted to pre-book, and we're only getting a small boost, even though we got Rocky Golden in there and Remo and some of my better tag teams, but you know, it is what it is. Whatever, we got a boost to our attendance, and that is good. Next, I want to check in on my storylines and see what's up with that. You know, I named the storylines based on what their current heat is, so I did make all of those changes, and my World Heavyweight title storyline is the hottest story, which is expected, and I think that will continue to be the case going forward, unless somehow my Remo Jack Bruce storyline goes further than that. But right now we do have enough hot storylines. I think 65 is the limit for something being hot, right? Some of my newer storylines did not hit very well when they debuted on the show. You know, that's okay. What's pretty wild is that I think at some point, just having Gary the Entertainer do his own promo might really boost this storyline. I do plan on having a few matches to build this up. That's why I have all of the workers that I have here. Basically, Gary the Entertainer's opponents going forward until he does fight Justin Sensitive. The question really is, does he get wins here? He's doing fairly poorly, and Justin Sensitive is doing fairly good, but it is meant to be a TV storyline. I don't think I'm building to a big pay-per-view match between Gary the Entertainer and Justin Sensitive, but yeah, maybe a solid mid-card match on the TV show. Canadian title tournament, the ratings are probably not going to get great. This might be the best rated match. I'm not even sure if the finals will be great, but the experiment and the point here of having the storyline alongside the actual tournament brackets is, as the storyline advances, winners like Spencer Spade, he won his match. Lenny Brown, he won his match. They're doing fairly good. And as that momentum builds, we'll see the matches get more important. If you can get all of your tournament workers into a storyline, whether it's single elimination or a round robin format, each match builds the momentum, not just overall with that worker's popularity or overness, but in the storyline specifically, they'll have success, and that just builds the importance of the storyline. So that's what I'm looking for here. Plus, I believe it helps with the fact that matches are not considered important if they don't have a storyline involved, and that can hurt the rating. So I just think that there's a little bit of a help there. so that the matches don't get penalized for not being part of a storyline. All right, so there's that, and I don't think there's anything else that really needs to be done here, so I'm gonna go ahead and forward to the next day, see if anything interesting happens. All right, we're at the next day, and there's no major news, but it does seem like we might be having some positive things happening backstage in our child company. Remington Remus, he's a commentator, former wrestler, but he is just beat up with his legs. But he is pretty decent for play-by-play, and to be honest, he would be the heir to the SWF play-by-play seat at this time. But yeah, he's working with the younger guys. Another interesting thing is Sean McFly, who at the beginning of this playthrough I tried to hire and he was stolen from me by USPW. He seems to be having success there, so good for him. No interesting news here on the next day, but I do have some mail, so I'm gonna check that out. Oh, Chrissy Angel contract ending. So she's done well and she has good stats. She is a current and effective manager. I really don't want to be looking for new female workers who can't wrestle, but I think Chrissy Angel is someone I can make an exception for. She is currently making $17,600 a month. Let's go ahead and negotiate and just kind of see what she's asking for. Oh, she's asking for the same thing, not even a raise. 3 years. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and make the offer. She'll probably ask for more though. Okay, she's good with that. 3 more years. I mean, she'll be pushing 40. I don't know if like the sex appeal stat ever deteriorates, but I mean, again, she's not in ring, so the physical is not really a factor here, and she's still effective, so why not? All right, so let's delete that. We've offered our contract and it's time to move on to the next day. So we got some news that is kind of interesting. In USPW, they're putting Sterling Whitlock in a tag team, but he's gonna be our guy pretty soon. And I'm also curious about how this, I know B shows, this is a B show, I'm pretty sure, but you know, it's not doing great and a lot of their shows are not highly rated. I'm actually wondering if it is possible to overtake them at some point, which is the goal of this playthrough. So we'll see how that goes. All right, in Sunday's mail, we have another expiring contract. So I am going to look at Paul Huntington, and I don't see any reason to not offer him a contract. He's pretty good on the mic. He is 36 and he's kind of wearing down. I'm not sure what other skills he really might have. Of course, I do need to potentially replace him. Don't have big plans for him, but do I keep him on staff just so that nobody else can get to him? His popularity is all right. It's relatively solid. So again, I think he's starting to get older, and 36,600 a month. No relationships. I do want to look and see if he is exceptionally expensive. All right, so what I'm seeing is estimated cost is 36,600. That would be a pretty significant increase. In terms of popularity, let's just search our roster for somewhere between 60 and 70. We'll say specifically in the United States. We'll also say the wrestlers. That's more important. All right, so now 57, 32. Like, just again, I'm looking at similar popularity, and I just want to get a sense of what I would be paying in terms of comparatively. Yeah, he's been around a while. That's why he's getting paid what he's getting paid. All right, so right now he's making 34. I actually might be willing to let him go, but if we negotiate, maybe what we can get is something like that. 35,000 per month, maybe everything except house shows to entice him. If I actually go into merchandise, I can see that he moves about $1,700 in merchandise a month. We're not out of this month yet, but we're getting close. So I do think that that is likely to stay accurate. So if his last demand was like 35 and 600, I'll see if he'll do all shows for that. All right. No. Let's say except house shows. I see him staying as a tag team guy. He's not really going to get pushes, so I don't need him at house shows. We'll keep this at 30% and we'll make that offer. Yeah. All right, so he'll probably stick around. All right, no important things happening, so we are right to the night of the show. No one is getting the night off, and now it's time to select our venue. So I did have a bit of a journey online to try to find out what the best strategy is for selecting a venue. I'm gonna hold this next show in the Midwest, and we are expected to have over 10,000 fans. So here's a nice little test, right? We have between 10,000 and 15,000 selected here. So let's search. If I'm looking at my venues that are 10,000 capacity, which there is only one, the higher cost is $40,000. Everything else also $40,000. So even though it's just a few hundred tickets that I'll be losing out on, why would I lose that revenue if there isn't any benefit to having a sellout? I think we're gonna do a little bit of an experiment again. I don't know what this estimated means, and I don't want to go ahead and visit the exact same place that I held my show last time when I was here, so I am going to pick the smaller capacity. But when we get to that finance pop-up that I always skip, I know I can find more information about the show cost. So I'm gonna see if the higher cost is broken out there somewhere. If it is, then next time I book a show, I will definitely book a venue that has an estimated higher cost, and then I'll know if it possibly is increased from a baseline of this number. So here we go. I'm gonna select this venue, the Minnesota Coliseum. And so we move on to the booking team meeting, and how we doing with creative energy? Not great. What happened with Enforcer Roberts, man? All right, we're still getting our penalties, and that's fine. I want to take a look at my stored ideas. I used quite a few. All right, now that I've actually started that storyline with Demelza Wade, I can add a storyline idea to that story to give it a little boost and maybe gain some heat on it. I also have an angle that I have planned that maybe an angle idea will be helpful, especially to maybe just pad the angle rating a little bit. So you know what? I am going to use the storyline idea or some storyline idea, but that being said, I think my plan is to go with a angle idea, a storyline idea, and that's really going to be it. Maybe even a character idea. Yeah, if I'm trying to boost morale, that might be a good plan. But first, the angle idea. And this one is likely to succeed, but it's specifically for Adam Smasher, and that might come in handy, but that doesn't really help me for this show. Although the angle idea is not something that I necessarily wanted to use this show. All right, let's go ahead and try to capture a storyline idea, and then I'll decide what I want to do next. Ooh, this one's a near certainty. All right, I do like the sound of that. So we did get an angle idea. We did get a storyline idea. I don't know if I really want a character idea at this time. So I think maybe what I'll do is nab a creative finish here. And that's a near certainty. It's for Des Davids, which again is something I will have to use in the future, but I have several months to use it, so it definitely will get used eventually. All right, now we are at 8 points of creative energy, and And that ends our booking team meeting. Locker room incidents. What do we got here? Oh, Ikema came backstage with an angle idea. I'll have to see if that's any good. Oh, cool. I like that. Joanne Rodriguez getting the backstage a bit lively. Oh, classic rib by Huey Cannonball and Adam Smasher. And okay, good. They're both happy. Everyone was laughing, including Mr. Smasher. And there you go. All right, so now it's time to address the locker room and open forum. That's what I did last time. That definitely worked. I think I'm gonna go back to Metal, try to get this Joe Sexy and Des David's relationship to get back on track, man. Openly hostile with the guy. I don't get it. All right, so let's see. Hopefully that works. And here we are, time to book the show. So let's get to it. And we have a lot of pre-booking. And all right, so now what it comes down to is, how do I want to arrange this show? And I thought I knew. I thought what I wanted to do was the same thing with building up the show, where we just had an upward trajectory for the crowd heat. So originally my order was going to have Adam Smasher and Rocky Golden be in the main event, and the match before it be the tag team championship match. And actually, I'm thinking that the other matches here are not going to be as good. And there was another match that I didn't pre-book, but I do want to book, really just saving it because I want to pick a good opponent. And I think I'm actually going to book that first, because if I do think that will be my third best match, then I will split those matches as an opener, mid-card, main event. So Brandon James needs an opponent. He's a heel who is well known. So let's go ahead and look at just faces. Now the momentum, all right, let's actually search minimum momentum neutral. I do have a concern for killing momentum for someone. So Kip Keenan, we already had that match. Maddie Faith, Mikey Lau, Ranger's an option, can't be Valiant. And Ranger is relatively good. Let's go with that. Let's go with Ranger. I don't know if they can necessarily steal the show, but they can probably have a decent match. I do think Ranger could take a loss here and be fine. So there's going to be a lack of selling. That's unfortunate, but they have decent enough psychology. I mean, I guess the primary skills here are decent enough. They have okay consistency. So what this is telling me is, like, they could put together a pretty solid match. The stamina is not great, so I might make it 15 minutes of total time. And I think what I'm going to do for this show is Darren Smith is going to be the referee for my main matches, and I'm going to have Rick Young be the referee for those tournament matches, which are probably not going to get as high a rating, to try to boost those ratings. There we go. I don't think it's going to be a real crazy match here. Okay, so I am going to keep this match pretty simple. Again, 13 minutes of in-ring time, and it's going to be a regular match aim, obviously scripted, and Brandon James wins, decisive finish, and I did remove the ban on Spinal Impact. So I thought about messing around with things and having like distraction, whatever. No, I am just gonna have them have a match, because all we need is for Brandon James to be in the ring. I don't want it to necessarily be a squash match. I just want to get Brandon James a win to set up the next angle. So let me book this. And now we have our first match that is not gonna be the main event. But I'm going to go back to my pre-booking and put the main event in. And that main event is going to be Adam Smasher and Rocky Golden. So let's add it to the booking sheet. And let me take a look at both of their in-ring skills. All right, so I think the intention is going to be to steal the show as long as the crowd heat is very hot. And I do want to basically have a draw. It's going to be sports entertainment finish. And I'm gonna have it called in the ring. Now, Rocky Golden definitely has the in-ring psychology to call a match in the ring. Smasher, not so much, but he's, I think, close enough that working with Rocky Golden, this can enhance the rating. So I'm gonna take the risk on that. Scythe is going to interfere with both of them and basically sports entertainment finish. It's officially a draw, but no one gets the upper hand here. The match gets thrown out as soon as Scythe hits the ring. That's where we're going with this. But we are going to remove the ban on spinal impact. And here we go. That will be the main event. So let's book it. And no, the heavyweight title will not be on the line. So I do want to continue. Next, let me take a look at this Ikuma and Remo match, because I do think that this is going to be one of my better matches. So let me compare these skills here, and they're both pretty good. Again, lack of selling is going to be a thing that I expect to see. The stamina is much better for Remo than it is for Ikuma, and that's fine. I guess they won't have a very long match. Maybe I'll make their match like 12 minutes of in-ring time. Yeah, this one will be pretty straightforward with Remo being the winner. Regular match, I think that's what they can handle. I don't think I need to put open match. Clean win. We can say pinfall. No interference, no distraction. And one thing I'm going to do is just jump into the storyline here. Ikuma is going to have a supporting role. I will align him to Jack Bruce, and there we go. He's really just here to trigger the storyline and take a loss. That's that. Book it. All right, before I get to my 2 tournament matches, I am going to book this tag team match. I have decided that this will open the show, and I played it safe with a regular match aim. I think that's the best thing to do when you start a show and you have basically simmering crowd heat. I am taking a little bit of a risk by having the match called in the ring, but Angry Gilmore and ZWB both have pretty good in-ring psychology, and Huey Cannonball and Jefferson Stardust are pretty decent as well. So this is a little bit of an experiment in, can my better psychology workers carry the match if it's called in the ring, similar to what I'm doing in the main event with Rocky Golden and Adam Smasher. We are going to have a clean win. I removed the ban on spinal impacts, and we're going to end this storyline between these two teams. In the future, I might put Angry Gilmore and ZWB back together, but right now, the awesomeness is going to move on to a different feud. So I'm going to close this one out and debut a new storyline for them and the tag team titles. So let's go ahead and book this segment. And now we have our 2 matches that are part of the Canadian title tournament, right? I'm not sure which I'm going to have first. So I'm just going to add the Stephen Parker and Deaver Arnold match to the booking sheet first. And let's go ahead and book this one. A quick look at the skills for Stephen Parker and Deaver Arnold, and it's relatively impressive. Now, Deaver Arnold doesn't have like a ton of great fighting skills, but he is solid with consistency, stamina, and decent psychology. I don't think I'm going to set the match aim to be steal the show here based on what I'm seeing, but in the event that I have a white hot crowd, maybe I do. So I'll put a little note to just keep an eye on this. So we'll keep the match aim at regular to start, and we'll also keep it scripted with Stephen Parker winning. And I am going to give it a tainted finish, mostly because I want to lessen the damage to Deaver Arnold's momentum and popularity, because I am going to give him a push, but he's not going to advance in this tournament, right? Stephen Parker is going to get more wins in the very near future, so I am not really concerned about him not gaining momentum. That will happen. I am also going to make this an open match, mostly because the fighting skills between the two are a little bit off, so I'm thinking that might help the rating to ensure that they both get an even amount of offense, right? And I am going to do a slow build because these guys have the stamina. I think I'm going to make this, let's make it an 18-minute match, right? Like, it's going to take up some time, but I think these two can get through that type of match. Maybe I shave this down a little bit if we end up going with steal the show, because steal the show means that they're using full effort. For the staff, we're going to go with Rick Young, top referee, and Enforcer Roberts, my top road agent. And that's the match. Let's go ahead and book the segment. And now we have our last tournament match and add that to the booking sheet. Bear Bukowski and Lenny Brown. And neither of these workers have great stamina, so I am going to keep it 8 minutes of in-ring time, 10 minutes total. Regular match, scripted. Bear Bukowski wins and moves on in the tournament. And then clean finish. End in submission, because I know Bear Bukowski's finishing move is a submission hold. So there you go. Staff, Rick Young, Enforcer Roberts, and there we go. All set. I took a peek at my booking analysis, and Stephen Parker, Deaver Arnold, they're being slightly overused, and that tells me that with the angle that they're in, I need to make this match shorter. So let's just, yeah, all right, that's better. Okay, we are ready to start the show, so I just want to talk about some things to look out for in the show. Pre-show matches are just designed to try to find some positive in-ring chemistry. I'm not really concerned with those. I think my top 3 matches are going to be this tag team match to open things up, the main event, of course. Then if I had to choose, I think it will be Ikuma and Remo, but it's hard to say. I think Ranger and Brandon James have a good chance as well. And if we do have a white hot crowd, by the time it comes to Stephen Parker and Deaver Arnold, I'm going to take a chance on a steal the show match aim, but I honestly don't know if that will work. So it will be a gamble, but I have some options, and I'm really hoping that I do achieve 3 80+ rated matches here. I think there's a chance at that. I'm a little less confident in the angles, but I think with Hollywood Brett Starr, I did add Rocky Golden here. This could get a pretty good rating, and I am also hoping it hypes the crowd for the next match. But I think ratings wise, this will be the strongest angle. We have a couple of fighting angles, and I'm hoping that they do well. To close things out, it's going to be a brawl segment between 3 stars. So I'm hoping that's quite good. Those are the main things that I'm working on here. It's time to start the show and see how these pre-show matches go, and then we'll get right into it. Let's do it. All right, pre-show match 1. Wow, that was quite good for a pre-show match. Now, this is why. Awesome. Marshall Dillon and Scythe have great chemistry, and it showed. I like how Scythe got an 80 score here, but this is pretty good, and this might give an opening for Marshall Dillon to, I don't know, work a program or something with Scythe. Let's go ahead and check out the next segment. Another pre-show, this time Valiant here. Another great rating, gee whiz. Yeah, these are 2 good in-ring workers. No special chemistry, so all good there. Next segment, Maddie Faith and Rogue, also having a good rating here. But yeah, no special chemistry. Next one, no specific chemistry. Why did the tournament trigger? Is it because Phil Vibert is on commentary? That's interesting. Let me look. Next I have Gary the Entertainer. Is he in the storyline for the tournament? Right, Chill is in the storyline in a major role, and so is Phil Vibert. Gary the Entertainer is in a supporting role. All right, we're gonna experiment here. If the next segment, which has Gary the Entertainer in it, triggers the Canadian title tournament, that means the commentators can trigger segments if they're in them. That's not something I expected, but this should confirm it. So let's see. Yep, that's it. this shouldn't trigger with just one person in the storyline. It's because Phil Viber is in the story and so is Gary the Entertainer. So now we know that. I wonder if that also works the same with road agents. I mean, I guess I do expect that if the referee is a person in the storyline. And I do think we're ready to continue things. All right, wow. So a couple things going on here. One, this is a great rating to kick off the show, and these guys have worked together well in the past, and we're just seeing more of that. Although Angry Gilmore is the weak link here, I gotta be honest, not super excited about that. I was thinking maybe I'd have ZWB and Angry Gilmore team in the future. I don't know. If I need a team, I might do that, but maybe not a permanent thing after this. So good rating, first of all. We did end our storyline, right? Even though it did gain heat, but that's fine. I need to move on from this and do new things with especially the awesomeness here. We triggered the Canadian title tournament again. I am a little annoyed at this, but it'll be okay actually. And it doesn't say that the storyline actually gained heat, but this is a pretty high rating, which is a bit premature for what the buildup of that actual story, but it's okay. We did pretty well, and I really do think we got the show off to a strong start. We got the note here for that. Next, we have an angle, so we're gonna go ahead and move on with that, and hopefully we start our angle ratings off with a strong rating. All right, so a lot of good things going on here. First, the segment is an 80 rating. That's a strong start for our angles. I'm really happy with that. I think that's mostly driven by Rocky Golden being included. At first, when I had planned this, I was just gonna have it be a Brett Starr promo and have Rocky Golden and Des Davids off screen, but I thought Rocky Golden should make an appearance here, and it definitely, in that second part, I think made this rating what it ended up being. We did also start a storyline with this, and that has a strong start with this rating. We use an angle idea in order to get this angle over and help boost the storyline as well. And the big thing here is now the crowd is white hot, and that means we have a decision to make. I'm going to return to booking screen, and I was kind of thinking there's a good chance that we can add steal the show here if we have a white hot crowd, hoping that the crowd heat gets the match over better than it would otherwise. Now, we do have 16 minutes. We already have a slow build. I have this as regular, but we hit that mark where I'm thinking steal the show might be appropriate. Diva Arnold is going to be the weak link here. I mean, he basically is not a well-known worker, but his psychology is in the mid 70s most likely. He has high consistency, and that's kind of the thing that's pushing me into that. I mean, this isn't a particularly long match. Steal the show does mean that they're going to use more stamina, so I feel comfortable with the amount of stamina he has. But again, I think the consistency makes up for a kind of lack of psychology there. And then with Steven Parker, he has psychology that is definitely in the upper 70s. So I do think that they can carry a steal the show match. It's a risk. It is. But I think it's one that I'm willing to take in this case, just because the crowd heat is that hot. So you know what? Go out and steal the show. Okay, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm hoping that this isn't the absolute best match, but considering the ratings that these workers got versus what the actual segment turned out to be, Steal the Show might have actually boosted this rating. It's hard to tell, but if this ends up being the third best match of the night, then this is a really good decision. And if not, then it's not really a big deal, to be honest. So yeah, we got the crowd buzzing. That's good. We did gain heat on the Canadian title tournament, and I am happy with that. That is very cool. Crowd's buzzing and it's very hot, and that sets up the next angle, which is important because it is a big advancement for Diva Arnold's story. So let's see what our next segment brings us. Okay, so we have a pretty good rating here. anything below 70 is going to be frustrating. So this is okay. I'm pretty happy with this. Now, Deaver Arnold did not do well. That's something to keep in mind. I mean, he is basically going to have his hand held by Joey Morgan from this point on, so hopefully he improves. That's the idea. Essentially, if you've been following the series, he has great tag team chemistry with Joey Morgan, so they're going to form a tag team from this point, and hopefully that just improves his skills and boosts his popularity. But overall, we did pretty well. We're at a very hot crowd, so let's just go back to the booking screen and double check what's coming up next. All right, we have an interview with Chill, who is going to turn face. And then we have a match between Ranger and Brandon James. All right, let's continue on. All right, 54. That's not good, and we lost a little heat on the storyline, but it was necessary. Chill to turn. Let's handle the change. Turn face. And the turn was a success. All right, very good. And the whole reason for doing that is, one, I think I'm a little heel heavy on the roster, but also his next match is going to be against a heel. So it just kind of makes sense for him to hopefully make that match a little bit better. All good with this one. The crowd is still very hot. Let's see if this match is a decent one. All right, this only got a 65, so it ends up being a throwaway match. Yep, we got a little potential face turn. That's going to happen eventually. And Ranger and Brandon James have great chemistry. Well, I am not seeing that in their performance. What the heck with a 65? All right, cool. Maybe we will have more matches between these two in the future. I don't know. And one thing, when you look at the dirt sheet here, and this actually is to be expected, so this rating could have been worse, but there wasn't an associated storyline, and that was the penalty. I did know that. The original plan with this match was to have Demelza Wade ringside. I chose instead to take this penalty and just push this interaction fully to the angle. That's because in my last show, Demelza Wade was used too much, so I wanted to keep her to one segment and not have her go more than that. That's what happened with the actual rating. So eventually, maybe this becomes a thing, and we do run a storyline between these two. So here's this angle with Brandon James and Demelza Wade and Chrissy Angel. So Brandon James is able to play both face and heel, and I think I am going to turn him face. I'm just going to talk to him first. Oh, it's right on top. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of turning you face. So what does he have to say about that? No problems. Perfect. So let's go ahead and go handle turn. We're going to prepare a turn, which starts in the segment he's going to be in. So let's prepare the turn. All right, cool. So something that I want to start doing with Sammy Smoke is changing his gimmick. He has a poor gimmick currently, and I'm going to do another spin on his current con man gimmick. In his gimmick details, he is playing cartoonish and he plays comedy well, so I think that's how I want to utilize him. I'm going to prepare the gimmick change. We're going to keep it gimmicky cartoonish. Don't have a creative idea, but that's fine. We'll call it Ineffective Cheater, and that's going to be the idea. Like, he tries to cheat to win, it doesn't work. He puts his foot in his mouth constantly, right? And that's essentially what we're going to go for here. So let's confirm, all set. And we got a 66. That's not great for our angle ratings, but we do see some good things here. Our storyline idea was a success, so we did advance the storyline without losing any heat. Demelza Wade worked the crowd well, and so did Chrissy Angel, so that was good. And I did have them go unscripted in the angle because Chrissy Angel, I remember, improvises well. So now that I know Demelza Wade does too, I'll have to maybe use that to my advantage. I'm also seeing that Sammy Smoke has that same improvising bonus here, but it's an all right angle. We're basically just advancing the story here. Hopefully it gets hotter. Hopefully we get better ratings, but that's what it is. Let's go back to the booking screen and just see what's coming up next. Yeah, we're not going to address the turn yet. Oh, okay. Following workers can be changed. Yeah, I think I'm going to change the gimmick here. So he has changed his gimmick to ineffective cheater, and it's adequate. All right. Yeah, hopefully it just gets better over time. I mean, this is what the game simulates, right? We're changing his gimmick as he is joining a stable, and he's just going to get better at that gimmick, hopefully, as the weeks go on. So there we go. All right, back to booking screen. All right, next we have our matchup and then another angle. I'm hoping this angle does do well. So let's see how this goes. Let's continue the show, and we have a 67 for this match. So it ends up being a throwaway match. And again, I mean, the Remo match could be a really good match. It's possible, but we did all right. We advanced our Canadian title storyline. We advanced the tournament. All looks good. Nothing too crazy to report here. So let's go ahead and just move on and see how our next angle does. Ooh, this only got a 63. That's not great. It was a 4-part angle that I was really hoping would get better ratings due to Justin Sensitive's ability to work comedy. The storyline with Justin Sensitive and Gary the Entertainer, Leon the Chameleon, it did gain heat, so that's good, but we really didn't pop a good rating, and that's disappointing for sure. Again, under 70, no good. Now that this is under 70, I'm a little bit worried. We do have a fighting angle, a brawling angle at the end, so I'm hoping that does really well and maybe pulls the angle ratings back up to where I need it to be. We do have a Randy Unleashed promo. If he doesn't do well, that could be bad for the angle rating, but we're just gonna have to let it rock. All right, let's go ahead and see how this Ikuma and Remo match goes. Ooh, 82. All right, so we have 3 solid matches, and potentially we'll have 3 matches rated over 80. We have a chance, and Ikuma didn't do great in this match, but Remo did do well. And actually, I realized that I was supposed to put an angle together for Remo. All right, so I quickly threw together this 2-minute promo. Basically, I have Remo in a character development role so that we can tap into his charisma a little bit. Character development is something that uses both charisma and microphone. I'm really relying on his popularity though for the rating with this angle. Even low 60s, the thing is his popularity is so good that cutting a promo, it's going to get biased to that popularity. And then Jack Bruce is off screen, so this is really all Remo. But it's just 2 minutes. I am going to give him a minor storyline victory unless Jack Bruce isn't going to be happy about that. But there you go. Let's book the segment. And yes, okay, good. Remo, in-ring promo. Let's see how it does. 75. All right, so that is a boost. And every little bit helps, right? Okay, let's move on and check out the next angle. All right, so this angle, not so great. This one relies on Randy Unleashed, who is not as popular as Remo, clearly. We did lose a little bit of heat on this storyline because the rating isn't great. I'm not sure how to advance this necessarily because Randy Unleashed isn't so good at promos that he can carry the storyline this way. Mikey Lau is terrible at most angles. Maybe I'll have them fight for some reason. I think I'm gonna have a match coming up between them, like a tag team match. So I think that's how this will develop, right? This storyline will probably take a break for 1 week and then pick back up just before the pay-per-view event. So now we're gonna move on, and this is our main event match. Oh, 78. I mean, the wrestling was great. Lack of selling is what we had going on here. So, all right, we actually we underperformed with the rating. What happened exactly? Okay, it was penalized for the type of finish, and that makes sense. Like, they had a great match, but it was not a clean finish. It was a no contest, so that is absolutely fair. Yeah, if I actually had put Scythe to be involved in some way, at the very least his popularity might have influenced this final rating, so that is probably a misstep. I mean, I guess for me, the lights go out and then they come up and he's there, and then there's not even a bell, you know, like it's just them fighting, and that's that. I know that these guys work well together, and that is a plus. Adam Smasher had an 81, Rocky Golden had an 88. I did ask for it to be called in ring. I think that definitely enhanced the wrestling rating. So really it's my booking that caused the poor rating, but I had a decent rating for the rest of it. I am worried that I'm not going to get that 82 or 81 because the angles haven't been great. We'll see what this last angle brings us, and if that somehow like is in like the 85 plus range, then maybe there's a chance. But it is worth noting that a lot of my workers do not have great selling, but this is the only match where we got this warning where lack of selling penalized the rating. That's probably because their actual skill ratings are so good that the fact that they can't sell hurts the match, whereas for lesser workers, that's not as big of a problem as the lack of selling, right? All right, we have one last segment. Let's see how this angle goes. And it's a 75. So now I'm thinking that we might hit 80. I will be very happy if we just get boosted into that 81 range. I don't know if I have the actual ratings to deserve it, but it would be nice. The problem is I just didn't have any like super hot 85 plus ratings at all. And that's why like I don't think I'm gonna push through and break through that barrier there for the 81. All right, let's just finish the show and see what that rating ends up being. 80. All right, we are 1 point off what we need for our broadcaster. I mean, it's an improvement, but you either hit it or you don't. So that's unfortunate. We did increase our popularity, that's good. And we have some work to do in this pre-show information, right? So financial report. I almost basically always ignore this, but what I want to look at is show costs, right? All the show costs, they come to 60.5, and the venue hire is here. So this venue did not say that it was an estimated cost. 40,000 is expected. I honestly don't know what miscellaneous includes, so if you know, drop it in the comments. And then you see like the overall cost line there. I think that includes things like the standard show cost based on your size, any backstage amenities like catering, for instance, and then also travel. So the next step is to book a venue that has the same cost, but it's an estimated cost, and see if there's a difference. Popularity, no big increases, no decreases. So that's all good. Post show's complete. Hopefully our show stays on the air. I think that will do it for another long episode of Booking SWF. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when the next episode is released and every time it's on.